places.
Chad Huntley, David Bush, John Chen.
Tom Brokaw.
Could President Bush be changing tactics in Iraq to face with his top generals after still more chaos and a bloody siege? How could it be possible, 5 years after 9/11, more human remains have been found at Ground Zero? An all-American city on the ropes for years, suddenly on a winning streak, feeling a whole lot more like Hitsville, USA. And a woman who is making a difference for little girls who never dreamed they would have the chance to be beautiful ballerinas.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening. Americans woke up today to news that a crucial city had fallen to the enemy in Iraq overnight. Hours later, some senior and familiar figures were seen visiting the White House today. It has been a week of setbacks in Iraq, and there have been some rare admissions from the Bush administration regarding U.S. policy there. Tonight, there is further evidence that some sort of review of the Iraq war is underway. And so without delay, and before we get an update on the ground in Iraq, we go to the White House and NBC's David Gregory. David, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. You mentioned that review. There's also a greater sense of urgency within the White House about the war. A flurry of meetings today focused on two key questions. What should the U.S. do next in Iraq, and what realistically can it do? With just weeks to go before Iraq's political impact is felt at the polls, the president today conceded setbacks.
We're engaging the enemies, and they're putting up a tough fight.
One day after military officials acknowledged a failed security crackdown in Baghdad, the president summoned to the White House General John Abizaid, the top U.S. commander in the Middle East, to kick off a series of meetings with commanders about tactics in Iraq, with administration officials privately expressing frustration with Iraqi leader Nouri al-Maliki. Defense Secretary Rumsfeld today ratcheted up pressure on Iraqis to assume control of the country.
They're going to have to govern it. They're going to have to provide security for it. And they're going to have to do it sooner rather than later.
Though the president insists he will not adjust U.S. policy in Iraq based on public opposition, one top former administration official predicted that a, quote, blowout in the upcoming election will leave the president, quote, little choice but to do something differently. What are the options? More troops. Republicans like John McCain have argued for an increase, but most consider that move too difficult politically. Partition Iraq. The White House is opposed, but even Bush allies think it could stabilize the country. Talk to the enemy. The White House is under pressure to seek help from Iran and Syria. Experts warn of more violence without their influence.
We're less likely to get these crucial political and militia actors to make the necessary restraints and compromises that might stabilize the situation in Iraq.
But the biggest issue of all, of course, the issue of troop withdrawal. And sources say that the commission on Iraq, being headed up by former Secretary of State James Baker, is actually divided on this point. On the one hand, there is a desire to send a message to Iraq that the U.S. is leaving, but also a fear that setting a timeline for troop withdrawal, Brian, could actually trigger an all-out civil war.
And David, just to put a finer point on this, based in part on who was seen visiting the White House today, it's fair to say there's a sense that something may be coming on this subject.
Well, there is. We know today that former Secretary of State Baker and Lee Hamilton, the co-chair of this Iraq survey group, met with the president today privately for a good period of time. We're told the president's taking this very seriously, but there will not be recommendations until after the election. People associated with this commission say that they have not begun discussing recommendations, not even clear, Brian, whether they'll have a firm path to recommend to the president or whether they just present options. They do want to look at how to change course.
All right, our chief White House correspondent David Gregory for us tonight. David, thanks for that. And now to what happened on the ground today in Iraq. A Shiite militia, followers of the cleric Muqtada al-Sadr, made a bold and successful power grab for control of a major Iraqi city, a city that the British had returned to Iraqi control just 2 months ago as part of the UK's own exit strategy. It's the latest example of this unraveling security situation on the ground, We are joined tonight by NBC News correspondent Richard Engel in Baghdad. Richard, good evening to you.
Good evening, Brian. This is an example of an exit strategy gone wrong. The Mahdi army invaded the city of Amara and briefly seized control. This is the second city here this week where Iraqi security forces have been unable to stand up to militias. It was Shiites killing Shiites. The Mahdi army destroyed at least 3 police stations, captured police weapons, imposed checkpoints and a curfew. At least 25 militiamen and police died in the fighting. Anti-American cleric Muqtada al-Sadr controls the Mahdi army, his personal militia, accused of executing Sunnis and forcing them from their homes. The siege of Amara is his boldest challenge yet to the central government.
Sadr may be getting ready for war, and he may be getting ready to try to control as much of Baghdad and surrounding areas as possible, in the belief that ultimately who rules Iraq will be settled on the battlefield, not at the ballot box.
Amara was supposed to be a model of what success looks like in Iraq. A southern city of 750,000 with few attacks, ready for the Iraqi government to take charge. In August, British troops handed their main base in Amara to the Iraqi army. But the next day, the base was looted. Iraqi troops didn't intervene then or today.
If U.S. troops can't count on the Iraqi security forces to maintain control, then we've basically got 2 choices: stick around or accept defeat.
Tonight, after negotiations with Sadr's forces, the Iraqi army did regain control of Amara. But Sadr's brazen takeover put both the Iraqi government and the U.S. military on notice of what could be an emerging pattern. Brian?
Richard Engel from Baghdad for us tonight. Richard, thank you for that. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice made the most important stop on her Asia trip today to press for tougher action against North Korea for conducting a nuclear test. We get details now from our chief foreign affairs correspondent, Andrea Mitchell, who is in our Washington bureau. Andrea, what's the update?
Well, she was in China and met with China's president, but also with a top Chinese envoy who Brian had just returned from North Korea, where he personally delivered a tough message to Kim Jong-il. Rice says that the Chinese official told Kim he needs to return to regional talks and should not even think about exploding a second nuclear test. Rice says that China agreed to inspect North Korean cargo, but that she won few hard commitments from them. And contrary to earlier reports out of South Korea, Kim did not tell the Chinese he is ready to return to talks or end this nuclear showdown. So no big improvements today, Brian.
All right, Andrea Mitchell in our Washington bureau with that tonight. This next story is hard for a lot of people to believe. This week here in New York, over 5 years now since 9/11, more human remains were found dating back to that attack. Tonight in New York, there is anger and anguish over the discovery. We get the story tonight from NBC's Ron Allen.
While construction at Ground Zero continued today, Diane and Kurt Horning fear the discovery of more human remains could reignite their nightmare. A utility crew uncovered the remains inside a damaged manhole, reportedly tiny pieces of arm and leg, and some reports say 2 9/11 victims' wallets. Close to where tiny pieces of Matthew Horning's body were discovered. They finally buried their son late last year.
I think it continually reinforces the horror of what we're going through.
Some 9/11 families like the Hornings have long complained the search for their loved ones ended too soon. The recovery effort lasted about 9 months, and then no significant findings until this summer, when demolition crews atop a building next to Ground Zero found some 750 human fragments. New York's mayor today on his weekly radio show.
It's an enormous area, and I think those that did the recovery effort, they did the best they could.
Later, after an emergency meeting, city officials promised to canvass the site again. An extremely emotional issue because while nearly 3,000 died, the remains of more than 1,100 victims have not been found.
It's such an incomplete sense of disconnection from the people that you loved.
The city stopped trying to make identifications last year, but resumed after a few months with newly discovered DNA techniques. Still, this year, they've made only one positive identification. Now, some families like the Hornings are demanding a halt to construction, calling for military forensic experts to search instead of city officials.
When you think it's as bad as it's going to get, they find a way to make it worse.
Many families still have hope their loved ones will be found, and not just by chance. Ron Allen, NBC News, New York.
Today, a prosecutor called this next story the internet version of yelling fire in a crowded theater. Tonight, there is an arrest in connection with what turned out to be a phony threat discovered on the internet to attack 7 NFL stadiums this weekend with radioactive so-called dirty bombs. A 20-year-old Wisconsin grocery store clerk is accused of orchestrating this hoax. He told prosecutors he had posted the same phony threat 40 different times on various websites. Checking in on Wall Street today, stocks ended this week narrowly mixed. The Dow was down today more than 9 points, though hanging on 2 points over that record 12,000 mark. NASDAQ was up just over 1 point on today's trading. For the week, the Dow gained almost 42 points. NASDAQ was down just under 15 points on the week's trading. We'll take a break, and still ahead this Friday night on NBC Nightly News. After a tough year for the city of Detroit, there is joy in Motown tonight, thanks to some local heroes. And later, making a difference, helping some very special little girls to become ballerinas.
Cholesterol. It can come from fettuccine Alfredo, but also from your grandpa Alfredo, from barbecue ribs, and from your grandma Barbie. A healthy diet is important. When that's not enough, adding Vytorin can help. Cholesterol comes from 2 sources, food and family. Vytorin treats 2 sources. Only Vytorin helps block the absorption of cholesterol from food and reduces the cholesterol your body makes naturally based on family history. Vytorin was also proven in clinical studies to lower bad cholesterol more than Lipitor alone. Vytorin is not for everyone, including people with liver problems, women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. Unexplained muscle pain or weakness could be a sign of a rare but serious side effect. Vytorin may interact with other medicines or certain foods, increasing your risk of getting this serious side effect. Simple blood tests are needed to check for liver problems. So eat right, stay active. But if that's not enough, ask your doctor about adding Vytorin. 2 sources of cholesterol. Treat them both with Vytorin.
When you're constipated, stimulant laxatives can cause cramps, and cramps can give you a bad day. Next time, take Phillips caplets. They don't have harsh stimulants, so you get gentle relief without cramps. Relief feels better with Phillips caplets.
Would I want to be 25 again? Not a chance. But I still want that radiant look.
CoverGirl Advanced Radiance is breakthrough makeup with Olay age-defying ingredients for our most radiant coverage yet. Skin looks 5 years younger. Advanced Radiance from CoverGirl.
There are over 14 million headaches happening in this country today. But too many go untreated, simply because we're away from home. So we created a fast, new way to get the pure pain relief of Tylenol. Introducing Tylenol Go Tabs. They're portable and chewable for fast headache relief, even away from home. It's one small step towards a pain-free world. Stop. Think. Tylenol Go Tabs.
Dateline Saturday. Teenagers in a bizarre love triangle. How jealousy among friends led to a horrific crime. Dateline Saturday, 8/7 Central on NBC.
We're back with NBC News in depth here tonight. Our continuing coverage of some of the more interesting races out there this election year. Tonight, Missouri, always a political bellwether state, and the Senate race there this year is no exception. As NBC's Campbell Brown tells us tonight, unhappiness with the war in Iraq and Washington in general making things difficult for the Republican incumbent.
In St. Louis this week, baseball fans speak with one voice about their beloved Cardinals. But when it comes to the race for the Senate,
You want me to mark it as undecided, sir?
those voices are split down the middle. The incumbent, Republican Jim Talent, in the political fight of his life, this week bringing out popular national figure Senator Elizabeth Dole to help him campaign. His challenger, Democrat Claire McCaskill, now making serious headway by highlighting Talent's support for President Bush in the war in Iraq. To say that the national parties are paying close attention to this race is an understatement. Republicans view Missouri as a must-win, one of just a few races that will mean the difference between Republicans holding on to the Senate or losing control to Democrats. Plus, Missouri is consistently what political scientist Kenneth Warren calls a mood mirror for the rest of the country.
We look at the Senate race in Missouri and we see that talent is fading in the polls as he is. You can see that candidates elsewhere in the nation who are Republican are fading in the polls as well.
Talent doesn't dispute that the souring mood toward Republicans nationally may hurt.
Obviously, if the national climate is good, that helps you. If the national climate is bad, that's a headwind. But I just believe voters in all places generally tend to vote on who they have in front of them and what they think they're going to do.
But his opponent, McCaskill, is also benefiting from a local initiative on the ballot to allow stem cell research. Polls show most in Missouri support it. So does McCaskill, but Talent is opposed.
I think people's attention to that issue is driving a lot of intensity on the side of curing diseases, and I think that's going to help our turnout.
The race is so important to both parties that they are now pouring millions into both campaigns. So while Cardinals fans know how they feel about their team, the Missouri Senate candidates are hoping undecided voters will make up their minds. Campbell Brown, NBC News, St. Louis.
The Republican National Committee is out with a new campaign ad, and when some political veterans first saw it, it reminded them of something. The ad, which shows a series of images and threats from Al-Qaeda, contains the following wording on the screen. At the end of the ad, quote, "These are the stakes."
The Republican
well, when some politicos first laid eyes on the ad, it reminded them of something from a few decades ago.
These are the stakes.
That there, the voice of President Lyndon Johnson in the famous Daisy ad designed to scare voters away from Goldwater back in '64. Democrats today called this new RNC ad, quote, pathetic. The truth is the RNC has only purchased about $20,000 in airtime. They are hoping for news media exposure to provide free airtime. We'll take another break when Nightly News continues, helping little girls who don't normally get the chance to do something quite so special. It's our Making a Difference report tonight.
I'm Pete. I've had nice bosses, mean bosses, short bosses, tall bosses, she bosses, he bosses, they bosses, serious bosses, nervous bosses, and one kind of funny boss. Now I'm the boss, and my plan is to keep the boss happy.
You do what you love. We'll help you keep your investments on track. Fidelity Retirement Income Advantage. Call 1-800-FIDELITY. Smart move.
Mother Nature gave some animals warm winter coats, but others depend on Burlington Coat Factory for designer coats up to 60% off department store prices. And now with our new cash back policy, there's no reason to be left out in the cold.
If you wanted to create the ideal health drink, you'd want the vitamin C you find in rutabagas, and thiamine, liver, minerals like potassium and magnesium. Or you could just have a glass of Florida orange juice.
Florida orange juice, drink it every day.
Hey, my name is Taco, and this is my story. I build custom motorcycles. I'm working every day, lean over, doing something. When I wake up in the morning, I'd feel joint pain, and I'd feel my hands cramping up. I just had to do something about it. I take a leave, and basically, I make it through the day. I leave, it makes a huge difference.
Ellen McCarthy can't afford her medication, so Merck sends it directly to her home, free. Call 1-800-50-MERC or visit merckhelps.com for a list of Merck medicines and eligibility requirements. Merck, where patients come first.
I'm ready to fight my cancer.
I'm ready to begin chemotherapy.
I really am ready because I'm going to take Neulasta right from the start to help protect me from infection.
Chemotherapy can reduce your white blood cell count and increase your risk of infection, which could put your treatment on hold. But Neulasta is a white blood cell booster that can help restore your white blood cell count to reduce your risk of infection. And with a sufficient white blood cell count, your doctor may have a better chance of giving you your chemo on schedule, which doctors agree is the first step to success. Neulasta is for most cancer patients receiving strong chemotherapy. In rare cases, splenic rupture or serious allergic reactions have been reported. Report abdominal or shoulder pain or any allergic reaction to your doctor immediately. The most common side effect of this injection is mild to moderate bone pain.
I'm ready to start.
I'm ready to fight.
I'm ready. Thanks to Neulasta.
Ask your doctor about Neulasta and how you can be ready for chemotherapy.
Sunday, exclusive. Senator Barack Obama talks to Tim Russert about the war in Iraq, midterm elections, and his own political future. Only on Meet the Press.
Housing on the bubble, NBC Nightly News Monday.
Some spectacular pictures just into us tonight of an enormous fire on the grounds of the Fort Meade Army Base in suburban Maryland, northeast of Washington, D.C. The fire erupted late this afternoon on the upper floors of these buildings. They house the 902nd Military Intelligence Group. The buildings themselves were evacuated quickly, and tonight, thankfully, no reports of injuries there. Now to a downtown turnaround in Motown. In a little over a year, when you think about it, the city of Detroit has hosted the Baseball All-Star Game, the Super Bowl, and now they're getting ready to welcome the World Series. NBC's Kevin Tibbles reports tonight on the Tigers, hoping to chase away some demons on behalf of a grateful city.
Decades of decline in the Motor City.
A lot of people are wondering how the U.S. auto industry lost its way.
And more bad news this year adds insult to injury. But now, for the first time in a long time, the sound of success. The Tigers march to the World Series!
People aren't talking about all the negative. People are talking about, hey, what about the Tigers?
And talking about doing something that in recent years was unheard of, going downtown. If you build it, they will come. That's what Detroit was hoping when this ballpark opened. Now, 6 long years later, they finally are. Just across the street, Chelly's Chili, recently opened by Detroit hockey star Chris Chelios. The building had sat abandoned for 15 years.
And it looked as bad as it came. It looked like war went through here.
$11 billion invested since 2000. Derelict buildings, now condos and lofts. This once dangerous downtown space, now an inviting plaza.
How you doing, big fella?
Detroit's mayor wants to show wary suburbanites it's cool to come back.
People are coming downtown for the first time. We're reintroducing ourselves to our neighbors.
This isn't the first time the Tigers have lifted Motown spirits. Their 1968 World Series victory over the St. Louis Cardinals helped calm racial tensions after deadly riots the year before. Still today, with 8% unemployment, Detroit remains the poorest big city in America.
We needed a pick-me-up, and I think that the World Series is doing it for us. It's fun. It's fun to be downtown.
On the eve of the World Series, this city is holding its Tigers by the tail, hoping to make a roaring comeback. Kevin Tibbles, NBC News, Detroit.
And when we come back here tonight, we'll meet some special young ballerinas and their teacher making a difference by providing that first step.
In the human body, the heart pumps blood through thousands of miles of arteries every minute.
Inventor of the Jarvik artificial heart, Dr. Robert Jarvik.
But high cholesterol can clog arteries and lead to heart disease or a stroke. Adding Lipitor is proven to lower bad cholesterol an impressive 39 to 60% when diet and exercise are not enough. And today, clinical evidence proves that Lipitor can reduce both your risk of heart attack and your risk of stroke if you have several common risk factors for heart disease. All important reasons to ask your doctor about Lipitor. Lipitor is not for everyone, including people with liver problems and women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. You need simple blood tests to check for liver problems. Tell your doctor if you're taking other medications or if you have any muscle pain or weakness. They may be a sign of a rare but serious side effect. Lipitor is one of many treatment options to consider with your doctor. Could you be doing more with Lipitor? Ask your doctor.
Ooh, that's good. Ooh, it's the same as the first one.
Only Folgers has the aroma sealed canister for fresh tasting coffee every time.
Thought this was a taste test.
Can a multivitamin help you feel physically and mentally energized all day?
Is that possible?
With new One-A-Day All-Day Energy it is. It's the only complete multivitamin with more B vitamins and an extended-release guarana blend to help you feel energized all day. One-A-Day.
All of us have internal plumbing.
But for some of us with frequent bladder urges, doing errands also means knowing where all the bathrooms are along the way. The worry your pipes might leak means you don't always detour from your route. But you can take another direction. Talk to your doctor about how to take care with Vesicare. Vesicare, once a day, can reduce urges and may help effectively manage bladder leakage, day and night. If you have certain types of stomach, urinary, or glaucoma problems, do not take Vesicare. While taking Vesicare, if you experience a serious allergic reaction, severe abdominal pain, or become constipated for 3 or more days, tell your doctor right away. Common side effects are dry mouth, constipation, blurred vision, and indigestion. A chance to follow a whim, not always your urges. It's not just a pipe dream. Ask your doctor today if Vesicare is right for you.
I'm Mark McGrath.
I'm Dana Devin. Next.
Heather and Paul. Has the stress of the divorce sent Sir Paul into therapy? Then Angelina and baby Shiloh, their first public outing. Plus a country legend takes sides in the Sarah Evans divorce scandal. Then Jerry Seinfeld and Roseanne. 2 big comebacks on Extra. Next.
Making a difference. Brought to you by Vesicare.
Friday night, time for our Making a Difference segment about the people we encounter in life who are doing just that. We have a special story for you tonight. This evening we meet an extraordinary woman who sees things in the eyes of little girls that apparently others do not. Her story tonight from NBC's Lisa Daniels.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
These little girls may not have perfected their pirouettes, but they have a grace far beyond their years. Most of the dancers here have cerebral palsy or other debilitating conditions, but when they enter Joanne Ferrara's ballet studio, their casts and walkers are left at the door, and they become simply ballerinas. And here we go. Miss Joanne, as the girls call her, is their instructor, a physical therapist who realized early on something not explained in any medical textbook.
We would, in physical therapy, do activities that resembled ballet, and I saw how much they loved it.
Not just the ballet moves, but things that really matter to little girls. Fairy tales, glitter, and anything pink.
What's your favorite thing about your outfit right now?
Oh, I like mine.
The ruffles?
Yes.
Do you like your crown?
Yes. I like my crown.
Even more, they like their teacher, who celebrates every step for what it is, an accomplishment.
Did you just turn by yourself?
Joanne pairs each ballerina with a special helper, a teenager who volunteers her time moving little arms and legs that can't move on their own. Some of these girls used to sit on the sidelines, watching their older sisters learn to dance. But now it's parents in the wings, sneaking precious glances.
Every week she just can't wait to come to a ballerina school.
For Taylor, it just opens up the world. Let me see, Shakira.
A world where Joanne is viewed as a real-life fairy godmother.
What do we have? Big smile.
This one little girl said, "This is what I always wanted, to be a ballerina. And it's my dream to help make their dreams come true."
A dream that comes alive at precisely 4:45 every Thursday afternoon. Lisa Daniels, NBC News, New York.
And that's our broadcast for this Friday evening. Thank you for being with us. John Siegenthaler will be here with you this weekend. I'm Brian Williams. We'll look for you right back here at the same time Monday night. Have a good weekend. Good night.
Saturday on Today, she's done it all. Liposuction, Botox, collagen. So what got this beauty junkie off the hard stuff? Break the beauty habit on Today, only on...
Next, Heather Mills accused of blackmailing Sir Paul. The shocking headlines.
Then Anna and her newborn baby at Daniel's funeral.
Plus, was a Grey's Anatomy star forced to come out?
Saturday, get closer to the New York Giants than ever before. On the field, in the locker room, with the players and the fans. James, New York, the New York Giants, 24 hours to kickoff. Presented by GMC, Saturday at 7.
Hear that? That's the sound of quality. Built into every new Hyundai Sonata in America's most advanced assembly plan. Sonata gives you more interior space than Camry or Accord. Plus, it's backed by America's best warranty. And the fuel-efficient Sonata costs $2,900 less than the Accord. It'll make you want to test drive one. The award-winning Sonata from Hyundai. Lease a new Hyundai Sonata for just $199 a month at your local Hyundai dealer.
Keith Urban checks himself into rehab